You started the curse of nat ones. You rolled the first nat 1 for our campaign. I rolled the first nat 20. And now I've rolled a nat 1 as well.
You converted.
Oh, how much light does a hooded lantern light if a hooded lantern light would loot?
What?
It depends.
That was a lot of.
Before we inevitably roll initiative, can I just tell the thieves and murderers that I'm willing to pay them if we can be on our way?
No, see, you can do that on your turn. This guy already basically started the attack, is the thing.
And it was going super well.
Yeah, if we were going through the populated area where, like, you know, people were around and people obviously knew we were there, I would have put the hooded lantern up to full.
Okay, I just need to check how much it is. That's
And
a lot of light.
can I put that on like a belt or anything like that, or?
No. Here's the thing, and here's the answer I have to you saying, we'll make a torch holder. You're a very balanced machine.
That's fair.
All of those ideas would make you fall over a lot. Like putting, you know, something sticky on a cat.
Then before you put the light on me,
I
am
am giving you a separate thing.
Yeah, if you put it on the ground next to me, to draw my crossbow at the guy, like I would have put it down on the ground next to me.
That's also true, yeah. Doop, ba-doop, do-do-do-do-do-do.
Like the same motion of him drawing the crossbow, his other hand would have been putting it down.
Now let's roll initiative!
God damn it! I was also expecting the guy to run. Apparently,
he got you. He did you a mischief. He did.
You were coaxed into a snafu.
But someone who was not tricked by the coaxing is Voss. Yeah, that drow was the one, you know, he was almost stunned, but then went around Rakath towards Yuri.
Will, what have you done?
Steps up to him to, you know, throw down, and in that motion, this drow thief manages to do, you know, a couple of pressure point strikes that actually make you tumble off this very small awning here and fall prone.
Perfect.
Timber. Next up is them, who he's gonna very clearly be trying to run up to Yuri. And Torum has a ranged weapon out, so all you can do is kind of give him a wee nudge, so he's going to run all the way up. You can do an opportunity attack, it's just going to be an offhand attack.
Oh, okay. So then just minus the 3 from that, right?
Yes, you're making it way more complicated than it is, but yes, that's a miss anyway.
I didn't know I needed to make that ready, so I'll make one now.
It's a good idea to have that for every character, really. Never know when you might need to
you're right.
pull out a wee punch. So he gets up real close, draws a blade, and will swing at Yuri, which, what's her AC?
13. That's
Wow! That's really good. He misses. He goes up, and it's fully dodged. And there is a surprise at you being this young, rich girl. And he's like, what? The other drow, the ones back further down here, are frightened, so they have disadvantage in the arrow attacks they're making against Rakath. But they're still going to make them. What's that?
They're looking to hit a 14.
Why, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's a 14. That's also a 14. Hey, one of them misses. They're firing at you with their short bows. That's going to be 3 piercing damage on one hit and 5 piercing damage on the next.
Well, I'm alive.
You get hit by 2 arrows as you're, almost confused by how quickly this drow moved around you and fooled by that. But these drow back here who are terrified of you, and they are like in a mixture of Elvish and Undercom being like, kill it! Kill it! Next up is Torum.
I am firing a bolt into that guy's back.
Yeah! Okay.
He exposed his back and he's out of melee range.
You're right, yeah. That's a hit.
Oh. Hey, and this is the one that was dipped.
You're level 1. You don't need to look for like a 17 every attack anymore. You get to enjoy the young numbers.
We're used to it, yeah.
That's actually not a kill.
It's the one that I dipped as well.
I'm
if that
aware.
does anything extra. Cool. And then he's going to pull out the Tanto and move it to main hand. And
Is that
very
dropping
menacingly,
the crossbow?
Yeah, I mean, if I
Because you
if I
can't.
need to...
It's what? So the way this
Okay,
works.
then I
'Cause
will
now you're
drop-
playing a fighter. This matters. I need to
Yeah.
explain this because this is important and a little silly. You have a free action every turn to interact to change one of your equipment. So if you have nothing, you go wha weapon. But that doesn't include swapping. So you have a free action to put your crossbow away, but you don't have a free action to take a Tanto out.
What I mean is, I would just hold the crossbow offhand. I
Well,
can't
you can-
fire it or anything.
It's a
You can
two-handed
also
weapon. You're still
draw a
holding
weapon
it.
as part of a
Okay.
movement.
Can you?
Yes.
Hmm.
I would
And that's all fine.
to move. I would drop the crossbow
Yeah,
there.
that's all fine.
Since I'm not letting this guy stay here and just very
I get the
noticeably
concept.
making
It's all
noise to move into position, letting this guy know that there's someone behind him.
Yuri. Yeah, it's one of those silly ones, so I'm absolutely okay with that. He's very injured. He just gotten a crossbow bolt to the it's gone through him somewhat.
I don't kill people needlessly, I'll say to him, as he's like bleeding out now. So perhaps I can just give you gold and you can be on your way. How does that sound? I don't have a container for your soul at the moment, so it really would be killing you, and that's not something I like to do.
I don't know if it's persuasion or intimidation, so whichever works. I would give you advantage
one's
as well,
higher?
because he did just get shot.
Oh, is that with advantage or no?
Yeah. Means you get the bad dice out of the way. Yeah, he's kind of falls to his knees and clutches the bleeding wound. Is like, yes, that sounds most disagreeable. Stop firing. Stop firing. Yes, no harm meant.
Good, excellent. I will hand him the pouch of silver and copper.
Yeah.
So it's 2 gold, but it might feel like more in the pouch.
Yeah, exactly.
Does it multiply?
It's a heavier bag.
I'll take the
takes
gold
it.
piece out of it. That was originally in our party fund.
Yeah. He takes the bag and kind of you forget the idea. He probably would have taken anything in this moment and is like, very kind of you, miss.
Have a good day.
I imagine just gotta keep walking. Would everyone be okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty.
Torum would keep the Tanto at the guy's back until Yuna's at a safe distance.
Yeah. You see, kind of as you're leaving, this guy's friends. Actually, one goes up and just finishes the job and takes the coin off the guy, and they kind of scurry off away while you're all gone. Yeah,
That's horrible.
you're off free.
Okay.
All right, let's be on our way.
Mm-hmm.
I will resist the urge to take that bolt back because it's currently through him, but I would get my crossbow.
I'm going to take the 2 arrows out of myself and put them into my quiver.
I like it.
Modern problems, modern solutions.
Mm-hmm.
You, at this point, you have no problem leaving the rest of the bog slums. You know, you're almost on the way out when you got chased by these kind of people. Lots of climbing, but you get back into civilization. Back into the city, back into people talking, back through marketplaces. And question is, what's next? What's the plan?
We have the address to where we want to go, right?
Yeah, it's outside of the city.
So it's going to be a while to get there.
As soon as we got into the city, like any notion of civilization again, Rakov is putting his hood on and his mask on and trying to look as, you know, as little horrible as he can.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have to address a way to go. It's outside the city. It is late. You don't really have a day and night cycle down here, but it's one of those things that most people do just have. There's just this rhythm, and most people live on the same rhythm, right? So you would be tired. It'd be a roundabout time to find somewhere to sleep and or meditate or be put in a room to charge.
Yeah.
Well, we're back in the city, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, technically, you never left.
Right. But we're back in...
You're back in civilization. Yeah. You're in kind of, you know, this marketplacey area.
Well, I mean, we have places to stay in town, do we not?
Mm-hmm. You could always stay at House Tabletop. You would be kind of going off the wrong way to do that, but also it's fine. Your house is more or less central, whereas you need to leave southward. But that's... Yeah,
I mean, we could always get a room at the south end of town.
Would it not be safer to stay in the house?
I just look to you, like, well, whatever you decide.
Let's go stay at the house.
Alrighty.
Come along now.
Make your way out back to the lovely neighborhood where House Tabletop sits. March on in. There are, you know, servant quarters where most of you can stay for now. It would even be a thing that one of the servants, who are mostly the servants of this house in particular, appear to be some kind of surface elf. In practicality, they're like, the blood is so muddied they don't belong to it. Like, they probably were wood elves when the first people were captured. But they would apologize to Voss and would say, "We don't have a room for you yet, but we have been told to make one for you. This was quicker than we expected."
This is acceptable.
And of course, Yuri has a room. So you can all find a place to rest up here. For Rakatha, basic bedding is set up.
So many alarms. All of the alarms.
Some things never change.
I probably here relatively often, I would assume, for work.
Ooh, you actually no. This is incorrect. You have a room here. So this is something I never said, but I meant to. You don't own this entire tower. You do own this kind of middling suite and a couple of floors, and the dungeons, where Rakath has a room. It is not big, but it is yours. It's actually your room. Some would say that Veskos is being very nice and not making you pay rent as a free slave. But yes, you do have a place that you could stay down there, and you could bring Voss with you if you wanted. That's kind of up to you two, whereas Yuri will stay in comfort. And at some point, Erin, I am going to ask you what this room is like. Doesn't matter right now, but at some point. Be prepared for that question.
Boss, if you'd like, you can come stay in the dungeons where I will be staying in my room. If you'd like. I may have work. I don't know. Depends what.
Matters not what space I'm forced to stay in. That we will only be here for a short time.
Up to you. And Rakath is going to start walking down towards the dungeon. If you follow, you follow. If you don't, you don't. He's clearly impartial.
I think I'm gonna stay out here.
Probably smart.
Alrighty. Anything any of you want to do with the sort of night's rest? Or
Need a good night's rest after being stabbed repeatedly.
Batman
The only
symbol?
thing that
Oh, one thing that Torum would actually ask Yuna if she knows what the jar of stuff is.
Oh, let me take a look.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I will have you come to my rooms for that because I have all my equipment there.
Absolutely. Arcana away.
Torum would be posted either outside your room or in your room or wherever.
I
Anyway.
imagine, yeah.
You have like a
it's-
nice chair outside the door.
Yeah, and he sits there fixing stuff.
It's not magical, which is often a surprise. This isn't some kind of magical poison or even a regular poison. It's just a very sort of sticky, sappy glue that it seems that the Koatoa make. You come to the conclusion that slamming it on arrows isn't really going to do anything. Yeah, admittedly, you don't really want to get this in your bloodstream. But D&D doesn't care about that.
What do I think they use it for? If not the cult weapons with it.
That's hard to tell, but probably a mixture of building and well, building would be the obvious answer. But they seem to have something like this on their shields that you only barely glanced at. So yeah, it's
This
very
is
good
just
adhesive.
glue, essentially. Not terribly poisonous, not magical.
This could still be useful.
Mildly alchemical adhesive at best.
Thank you.
It's an interesting herbal adhesive. Yeah, what you could totally do is use it to glue things to crossbow bolts,
yeah.
like
This is true.
raccoons and such.
Do we have any prisoners in the dungeon right now?
Right now, no.
Good to know.
This will end up being like, the meta game. Like
Slow
prisoners in the
night.
dungeon and stuff. Yeah.
Slow night. All right.
More
There
food for
is
you.
a couple things I want to do.
Yeah, just go ahead.
Number one, I want to give Torum a small pouch with a few coins in it.
Mhm.
And I'm just going to say, this is yours. This is money you've earned. But I want you to listen to me very carefully now. If anybody sees this on you, I want you to tell them that it was extra funds that I gave you to hold on to. I don't want anybody to think that you've stolen this. Understand?
Yes. Thank you. Go put it with his others. How much is
What?
it?
2 gold.
So what you could actually do, Torum,
Yep.
I don't know how practical this is for you, is keep the pouch on the inside.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah.
to hide it.
Yeah. That's actually when he
One of
he's
the
doing
things you
the armor
definitely
claiming.
would have experimented in at one point is that, yeah, you can like put things inside Torum and it doesn't like alter his effect in any way. Magical things like soul gems, yeah, that has an effect. But like put like a jar in there, he just rattles, so you totally can
I like
do
that.
that.
Yeah. Then yeah, I think he might do that while he's doing his very
Like
common
maintenance, yeah.
cleaning. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
The other thing I wanted to do was have Torum Not deliver a letter, but leave a letter in a secret spot.
Torum will do that.
So I gave you the letter and I gave you the spot where it's supposed to be held. And I told you if there's anything there for me, please bring it back.
I would then immediately go to do this. I would assume that this is something that you've had me do before, so...
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Different locations every time.
Okay, well then I will go to the location that told me to go.
When you go there actually is something that Torum would even be able to connect the fun little dots here. There is a game that is played in Narashiro that Yuri plays quite a bit. And I definitely know the name of it off the top of my head, and I'm not looking through my notes page.
Definitely not.
Called Traitor's Run. And the best way we described it is it's almost like a magnetic 3D chess. There's a cute thing that big houses have like their territories as boards. And your brother definitely has, like, probably in one of your common rooms, there is a set of this tower as this cool magnetic board. And there is a board piece for this game because, it's just been very clearly, seems like it was hand carved out of a little bit of spare wood with a magnetic little plating put in it for her.
I would take that and leave the other one. I would try and make sure that the what she gave me to leave was easy to find when you knew where to look, but otherwise not at all. And then I'll take the piece back to Yuna. There was this waiting.
Thank you.
Takes up his position opposite the door, starts repairing stuff.
That's the end of that. I'm gonna hold my soul gems a little bit, but
Yeah.
not much. Sprinkle them around in the jar.
Something that's very, especially because you keep cleared soul gems for this purpose. In the right light, you can see the thing inside it. It's not always the form of whatever it is that was killed, but it's usually the right colors and the right sort of movement. It's quite enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
Day would turn to night in that really nothing changes. To say that this is a city that never sleeps is not only literal because drow don't sleep, but because people live on an ebb and flow, people are, while you guys are resting, another half of the city is having their day. And very much like my fucking life, there's often days where like, oh, I have to go meet up with someone who lives on the opposite schedule. I have to adjust my sleep schedule for them. And that's seen as like a very submissive move that the like drow, like, yeah, no, you're going to change to my schedule. That's me big dicking you sort of thing. But yeah, it's another dry day. The temperatures rarely change in the dry season. You don't get any rains or anything. The worst thing would be if there was a dust storm and the servants would probably have gone around closing all the windows and securing them and stuff. So that doesn't seem like it's the case today. The dust storms are very rare. They're just really the only weather you get this time of year. It's a little misty and cloudy. Narashiro is such a tall city. And the cavern that, the Narashiro Caverns, which is its country-sized cave system, is so big that there are clouds that form, sometimes blocking out the twinkling lights that look like a field of stars on the cavern. And it's very misty and cloudy today, the mist kind of clinging to the side of the decadently decorated buildings and things, and fogging up the glasses that Yuru's room has. Rakath does have a window, no glass, just metal. Great. Yeah.
A little bit of moisture on the skin in the morning is
A little bit of moisture. Yeah. It's a little dank. One of my favorite D&D words that is been ruined.
Yeah.
All right. What's the plan, morning team? Aside from, I imagine Rakath comes up to meet probably Voss.
Yes, he would meet with Voss first, and then
The servants don't hand you food, Rakath. Food just appears down in the dungeon. They don't go to you personally, and usually whatever prisoners is shared amongst all of you. So if you've got a full dungeons, and I think your dungeons can hold, let's say, 4 people easily, you can cram them in there.
and we have.
Oh yes. No way to torture a drow better than to give them no personal space. But this is a situation because you're up there with Voss, 2 plates would be, or 2 bowls would be prepared for you, which is kind of this convu, which is again that kind of like bacterial growth that becomes this kind of rubbery, whitish substance, usually cut into thin or thicker discs in a kind of broth. Very good for you, very good breakfast. Horrible texture, but everyone's just used to it. It's one of the reasons why richer drow eat less of the stuff.
Rakath demolishes the food when it's there. He eats very quickly and very heartily. It is very clear that he enjoys this food.
The servant would, it's the same sort of elven woman as before. Would like, do either of the masters want wine or sake with your meal?
Rakath is going to look at her very confused at the terminology she just used. Boss?
I'm just gonna raise a hand, like...
Nods and walks out of the room. The servants always face the masters, which leads to a lot of backwards walking.
Never called me that before. I should keep you around.
Seems that's most likely because you've never engaged in this kind of work before, if I had to venture a guess.
You'd be mistaken.
I would like to meet with the house financier,
Mm-hmm.
or whoever operates under my brother, like his secretary of sorts.
Your house is quite small at the moment. So
I'll bother
really,
him directly if I have to.
yeah, he's the one who actually does all of this at the moment. You are aware that he wants to get someone in to do this because he does not like the mundanity of leadership. Sometimes, like... Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I'm gonna let him know that we have collected what we believe to be the item, and describe it as this glowing
Hot.
magical heart. It's quite gruesome. A little bit pretty.
I wouldn't have thought that would be the sort of thing. He would be, sitting at a desk, paperwork, as well as, again, to show a bit of the childishness, he also has handmade little figurines and things on there. And does kind of like rock a dwarf figurine back and forth. I wouldn't have expected that to be the sort. Might be why this delegate was so unwilling to stay in our apartments across to the north side of town if they were having some sort of heart delivered. Most likely harmless.
I also have very good news on my magical studies front, and I will take out the little soul gems, faintly glowing, and they just say, "Aren't they beautiful?"
There's that look where he sort of says, yes, and then looks at them.
And I say, no, look, and I'll hold it like up to the light. It's like, you can see the soul right there.
I'm still not sure if your talents are a blessing or a curse, but nevertheless they are potent. I will never doubt your skill in such matters.
And speaking of my research, I wanted to ask you for...
Money.
Yes.
I suppose I could pay in advance for this job being done. He will open up one of the drawers and pull out 50 gold. We'll say, you can adjust this amongst the group of your lot however you wish, but if you are using this to buy more soul gems, I would not complain. I'm sure there's a use for them.
Indeed. Thank you.
Stay safe.
Always.
And then you can
All right.
to the group of them who I imagine, is probably, where they're staying is open enough that you could find them quite quickly.
All right, so we get 12 gold apiece, and there's 5 silver in the party fund.
Okay.
Look at that. Done. Boom. It's almost like you're used to divvying out awkward sums of money.
Almost
That would have
Hate it when the DM does that.
dumped me forever.
done this before.
Hey, he wasn't expecting you to share.
And I will just say, this is in advance for our job. And I will, of course, take mine and buy another soul gem.
Yeah, absolutely. I imagine you have, somewhere you just go and they're like, yeah, we know what you want. Because you've been ordering it so frequently. No problemo.
You're just gonna have an entire bag full of them.
Yeah.
There is, of course, if you ever want to capture really strong things, the more fancy the gem, the better. But that doesn't matter for now. You're still a little baby wizard. All right, what's the
We're
plan?
gonna get a dragon.
Well, shall we depart? We know where we're going.
We may wish to pick up some supplies along the way. We don't know what this entails.
Do you believe that we will run into trouble?
I always believe we will run into trouble.
Noted.
How much are health potions again? They're 50 gold, right?
They're 50 gold each. Yeah.
All right. Anyways,
You can't afford that. Well, you
actually
can.
brew you a potion. It would cost only... No, it doesn't cost me anything. I can brew you a potion.
Your potion, healing elixir just is temporary, is the thing.
Yeah, that's 24 hours.
Yeah.
Damn.
yeah.
And my spell slots.
More important.
Yep.
But it's a great spell.
That's...
Very nice spell.
It's one of my favorites.
So maybe not for now. Let's go.
Yeah. Later. That's a later.
You did mention whether you wanted to pick up anything. Was it just, can I afford a healing potion? No, or is there anything else you want to pick up in town?
I was more just saying in case anybody wanted to pick anything up before we left. I don't
Yeah,
have
I'm good.
for myself. So
Leaving the city
I'm just
gates.
trying to be party mom.
Going into the what? You?
I'm
No
not
comment.
a regular mom. I'm a hideous mom.
A cruel mom.
Yeah,
You trek out
that too.
into across the city. Leaving towards one of the gates is quite easy to do. The crisscross spider webs of walkways that go between the buildings are specifically designed for the the common routes for you can travel quite easily. Heading towards one of the south gates is quite easy. You definitely notice guard at the gate. There always is, but for those who aren't robots, would notice that, a little more official guard forces and military has been present. It's mostly at the gate, what you see, and you're aware there's usually many more guards you can't see. Usually at every gate there's 2 samurai who watch and such. And considering you're leaving into sort of the farmlands and you're a group that belongs, and you're leaving from like the rich folk entrance and exit, you aren't given any trouble at all. Nods and blessings of the usurper queen and such, but no trouble at all. When you leave the city gates and city walls, you see the vastness of Narashiro Caverns. South of the city in particular is where there's a lot of this wildland. Those fungal forests just bloom into this vast degrees where during the wetter seasons, there's also lakes and rivers and things, although it's the dry season right now, so a lot more barren land where these fungal growths just recede into much, much less. Occasionally you see the towers that sprout out from above of them, buildings built into the side of the caverns themselves, though in most places you cannot see that you're in a cave. It's, aside from the rocky ground, the walls are far too far away for the eye to see. It's just kind of turns into mist in the far distance. It totally would make sense that there's some kind of, society that believes that they're actually living on the surface. That's probably a thing that exists. Because people...
Yeah, the Surface Earth Society.
The Surface Earth Society, there we go. I was trying to think of at least some kind of pun. Because you just don't see something most of the time. And you can start trekking out towards where this farmstead is. There's some drow who prefer the simpler farming life, keeping a bunch of slaves who do all the farming for them while they lean back and live in relative peace in little towers and keeps and sometimes even castles that grow in these fungal farmlands. And at a glance, especially when you're above, because you do recede down, and there's some walkways that travel above the forest, it looks all random. But when you start walking through it, especially the streets, especially near the city, there is method. You see a lot of Grimlock, the blind, human-like creatures. They have just no eyes, and usually are in some state of just dirty. Long hair, usually, and sometimes clothes, sometimes not. It's the dry season, so they are given something to protect their face from the dust that they're kicking up when they're sort of trying to dig up and turf up ground that does just plume up dust. You see a lot of Grimlock, and to most drow, Grimlock are very unpleasant creatures. But they work very hard, because they have to. Sometimes you do see other slaves, when there's an elf or even a drow slave, which definitely do exist. They are usually overseeing Grimlock or doing something that requires a different sort of work, tending to the animals, some such. When you're on this walkway, you do occasionally pass people who were using giant beetles as cargo mounts. The breed known as the Greater Service Beetle is this huge thing that you can walk under its legs while it's walking. And you usually do, because this happens all the time. Even in the city, you just don't even bat an eye. They kind of lumber over you. They're quite slow, but they carry just vast, vast amounts of cargo up and around them of whatever. It would mostly be lumber, because nothing's really in season this time of year. You would occasionally pass cargo and carriages, and those would usually be piloted by a drow or an elf. Though it's quite clear, going from clothing, you can usually tell who is a slave and who isn't. Then you find this farmstead, which appears like any of the others. Grimlock are working outside. It's got a quaint little fencing, kind of an elvish cottage, off a little bit of ways. It's not so far away that you can't, follow directions to get there. You don't have to trek through the forest. But it's just a little bit away from the city. the first few farmsteads around close to the city are much more like populated villages, but this is a little more isolated. You can smell that something's cooking inside this cottage, but all the curtains are firmly closed, which might mean it's just people are trancing inside. Who knows?
Let's go knock and see if anyone's home.
You go and knock, and quite quickly a drow opens the door. She's wearing what is quite typical drow clothing, although is not in fashion. Drow fashion celebrates the female body, and on males celebrates the female body. This is a lot more loose and and less form-fitting. But notably, she's wearing a mask. It's kind of like a masquerade mask with a veil that covers her face. You can kind of see her eyes through the mask, but it also has a veil. And she kind of looks, and then looks at a lot of you, and you can almost sense the smile. It says, "You must be the group who are replacing the courier that was lost. Please, come inside. You must be famished." And we'll sort of ethereally step aside for you to come inside the cottage, if you wish.
Yeah, I will go inside.
She, her attention is kept on both Torum and Rakath when they enter, if they enter.
I would enter, but I'm very much looking around the second I'm inside because we're meant to be meeting dwarfs. So,
Rakath is hesitant, very, very hesitant to enter.
In that hesitance, quite quickly for an elf, which gives away to you, Rakath, because you know these things, that this is a drow who deals with non-drow, would say, "All are welcome in this house."
And he'll kind of nod slowly. And can I roll insight on
Absolutely.
her? What's going on there?
You garner a sense of the devout, though not a religion you know, because admittedly, if she was a devout of the usurper queen, she would not be letting you in, most likely. Maybe the serpent goddess, but no. There's a difference. There is, again, a sort of etherealness, and very few drow hide their identity in this way for no reason. Yeah, some people find masks fashionable, but it's usually for an event or something. She's hiding something. But very quickly you almost step inside and smell a dwarf in your presence. And it's not her. But this cottage has, quite heavy doors, and she will open one of them to what is a dining room. Has a fireplace that actually isn't on right now. Again, curtains shut, making it quite gloomy. Candles lighting up a breakfast table filled with food, and there is a dwarven woman eating there. She's quite rotund for deep dwarves, who are quite muscular folk usually. Her clothing is quite of quite a high quality, that sort of merchant grade clothing. And a very strange thing about her, all the deep dwarves have this sort of mid-tier grey skin, sometimes a little browner, sometimes a little bluer. She has like spines that kind of grow on the line of her jaw. And her hair is fashioned in such a way, and it's kind of a whitish with some strands of red. It's such a way to show that off to some degree. And she's eating, the breakfast platter has, these sort of pinkish eggs, which are very common for people who are eating very common food in this area, as well as konvu, as well as actually meat and stuff like that. And she will quite, happily sort of like smile up at a lot of you and will say in undercommon, like, "Oh, come, eat, eat. You must be the couriers."
I'm just gonna take the bag, like the black bag, and just set it down on a table or something, just kind of letting it, at least the black cloth, unfold off of it.
Yeah, and then there's that slight, because it's very gloomy in here, that slight greenish, opposite, color kind of cascades into the room, and you see both of them kind of are a little enraptured in it for a few moments.
Can I make another insight check and see why they might be enraptured?
Yeah.
To some degree? Yeah. All right.
Oh,
I'm going to be doing a lot of this, by the way.
It's again, there's a bit of that devoutness, and there is a almost religiousness to how much they want to eat this. This is clearly a main event, something to chow down on, but something important. Maybe, you know, almost like this is going to be the head of a dinner party or something.
So, what precisely is the celebration?
The drow will actually say, "There is no need for a cause to celebrate. A celebration itself can be its celebration. Good food and good company is a celebration." And the dwarf woman will be sort of like yes. Please, if you won't eat something, at least drink some. And we'll kind of motion to a keg that has, you know, mugs by it.
Torm's going to look around, just around the area they're in now, just checking corners, checking all the, just looking everywhere, just scoping it basically.
You can give me a perception. You notice something. I mean, this room is like you know, it's kind of like a hobbit house. There's 2 doors into this room, but both of them are on the same corridor. It's just that one of the doors is nearer the kitchen, so that you can, you know, travel a bit easier. But you can also, you know, someone of your metalness could charge through that window. You could also technically leave up the chimney if so wished. But these are the things you think about, because you think about it in a very like sort of technical way, not a very practical way. But what you notice is a symbol that seems repeated a little subtly in some places, although it seems to be a pin on this dwarf woman's outfit. And the symbol's kind of hard to place for you, but it's kind of a circle, and it almost looks like design on top of it is someone with their rib cage split open, kind of hanging. It's a very strange symbol. It takes you a bit of time to like sort of process it. And then you realize, similar to that symbol, some of the food is actually being prepared in a rib cage, or being displayed in a rib cage, which admittedly is not all that weird for the Underdark. But then you're like, oh, that's more.
I would tap Yuna's shoulder and whisper to her the symbol on the pin that woman is wearing. It is repeated many places.
You are muted.
Can I attempt to identify?
That's a religion check. Being a woman of science, you of course have learnt about some dark faiths. Some primevals. Some creatures worship dark gods. But primevals are very different to shadow faiths. There's actually quite a lot of worship of shadow faiths in Drow society. Primevals is a little bit beyond that. Primevals are almost manifestations of a concept. And this symbol would immediately makes you think of the primeval of gluttony, an entity known as Pologal the Feasting. This does seem to be a sort of fiendish cult. Or at least these are members of a fiendish cult. There's no one else here, it seems, other than the servants. And it would make sense for a gluttony faith to have these sort of eating celebrations and some such.
Thank you so much for your hospitality and inviting us here. Praise be the primordial evils.
Yeah, you say that?
Yes, I do.
There's a bit of surprise, and actually the dwarven woman leans back in the chair and creaks quite heavily. And kind of, puts the mug down heavily on the table. Will say, yes. I don't think we would say it's evil.
True. But I am curious to hear more about your faith.
Oh, you don't know? Well...
No. Please tell me more of Palogal.
This then leans forward, big, like the drow woman, like no expression, even you could see it properly, but does big, like dwarven smile. Will start talking while eating. Very much talking with your mouth full is absolutely fine. I will motion for you to sit if you want. There's many chairs. And is to worship Pologal is to enjoy the feast itself, to eat freely and receive of their gifts, to garner strength and devour your enemies and your friends. It's food can be scarce in our homes, but in places of Pologal it is always plentiful. You just need to know where to look and what to eat.
Fascinating. And I must say, I am so interested in this heart that we have brought for you. And I was wondering, feel free to say no, but I would love the chance to study it a bit more. I don't know how long you're going to keep it in your possession, but might I examine it further until then?
You can give me a persuasion check with advantage, because they actually like you. She looks to the drow woman, who looks back to her and then looks over you, and the dwarf is like, I don't see why not. I think that's perfectly reasonable. It's a demon's heart.
Really?
Oh,
What an amazing specimen. I'm sure it'll make a lovely feast for you all.
And I'm sure you could learn very much from it. And kind of like motion, like the drow woman actually say, I would appreciate if it is not taken from here, but there is a shed in the back that would be a perfect place for you to study such things.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
Rakath is going to take off his mask and his hood and look at the dwarf carefully and say, have you ever eaten one like me before?
Not yet. But I'm always happy to have new friends for dinner.
I'm just curious. There aren't too many of me.
The drow woman actually say, there are many of our faith in our kingdoms. I have never seen something quite like you. I have met each member of the treaties, but not seen something like you.
Yes, well, that is my concern as well.
And he puts his mask and his hood back on.
And that's a good place to take a break. We'll be back in a sec.